Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've been noticing the streetscape of your city changing lately, you are not imagining things.
Not at all.
According to this nationwide review we've been completely immersed in, 2025 was, well, a banner year for dedicated cycling infrastructure in the U.S.
It really was.
And cities are finally moving past those cheap, ephemeral fixes, the ones that just faded after the first snowstorm.
The painted lines, yeah.
Our mission today is to extract the essential knowledge from this nationwide stack of sources we have, articles, planning docs, engineering reviews, to really understand the new standard for urban mobility.
And that's a crucial distinction.
It is. We are no longer just talking about, painting a stripe on the asphalt and hoping for the best. This is about fully protected, thoughtfully engineered, and genuinely people-centered design. We're looking for the blueprints of tomorrow's streets, and they're available right now.
And what's so fascinating here is how fundamentally the conversation has shifted. I mean, it's moved so far beyond just cycling advocacy. The sources show that the very best projects, they integrate these broader civic goals, things like placemaking, public art, climate resilience, and robust transit connections.
So they're creating streets that benefit everyone.
Exactly. It proves that this infrastructure investment, it should really be framed as an investment in safer, more livable, and climate-ready public space. It's an infrastructure revolution disguised as a bike lane rollout.
Okay, let's unpack this and maybe start with the core philosophy. When you look at the common thread running through all these award-winning projects from coast to coast, what is the absolute safety baseline now? It seems like physical separation is utterly non-negotiable.
It is the new minimum standard. We're absolutely seeing a philosophical move away from simply accommodating cyclists within the existing roadway.
That hazardous door zone.
The door zone, exactly. It's a move toward dedicated, built environments. The sources show a clear preference for permanent physical separation that's designed not just for safety, but for intuition.
Okay, let's look at two distinct examples. They highlight different ways of getting that separation. First, you have Alameda, California, and their West Midway Avenue project, which really sets what you could call the raised standard. Rochelle Wheeler, a senior transportation planner there, she noted the corridor went from a wide, empty roadway to a complete street. But for our purposes, what was the single most crucial engineering choice they made?
The elevation. It's all about the elevation. They installed a raised two-way protected bikeway right alongside continuous ADA-compliant sidewalks.
And that height is key, right?
It is, because it physically and psychologically separates the bike environment completely from vehicle traffic. For the user, the cyclist, it just feels safer because you're not at the same grade as a multi-ton car.
And for drivers, it makes the cycle path, well, undeniable. It's highly visible.
It's a literal commitment of public space. Wheeler's quote, I think, sums up the intent perfectly. Raising the bikeway and tightening the intersections sends a clear message. People biking and walking belong here.
It's a clear message about priority.
But that does raise an interesting engineering trade-off that the sources reveal. I mean, if raised bikeways are the safest, why do we see other leading cities like Minneapolis committing so heavily to curb-level or on-street curb-protected lanes?
That's a great question.
Is it cost? Is it maintenance? Or maybe right-of-way reasons that make curb-level the more pragmatic solution for scaling up?
It speaks to the necessary flexibility in this new blueprint. I mean, Minneapolis, already the second best large U.S. city for biking, is doubling down on curb-level commitment in its huge $36.7 million overhaul of Hennepin Avenue South.
Exactly. Minneapolis has committed to designing almost all its new bikeways as curb-level or on-street curb-protected. They built nearly 19 miles of these curb-level bikeways by the end of 2025.
Wow.
So the insight here is that while raised paths like Alameda's offer that maximum perceived safety curb level when it's protected by durable barriers is often easier and cheaper to deploy rapidly across an entire city network.
So it shifts the burden of adaptation.
It does. I mean, it shifts that constant worry about safety from the user, the cyclist, to the system, to the city's design. And that is a huge policy win.
Okay, moving from pragmatism to aesthetics. These new blueprints also demand that infrastructure should be beautiful, that it should be integrated into local culture.
Yes.
And that brings us to Seattle, Washington, and their 1.2-mile waterfront bike lane on Elliott Bay. This was built in that massive space left behind after they tore down the old Alaskan Way viaduct.
And instead of just, rebuilding a plain path, they saw this huge opportunity, this massive empty space left by the viaduct. Could be something entirely new. It could be about placemaking.
And this is where art becomes integral to the infrastructure.
But totally. Seattle used its long-standing 1% for Art program, which mandates that a small percentage of capital project budgets go toward public art to fund a major installation.
And the result is, well, it's spectacular. Along a 3-block section, there is this installation by artist Oscar Tuazon, and it has these sculptural posts inspired by traditional longhouse architecture, complete with indigenous carvings.
And that's the deep dive nugget on placemaking right there. The infrastructure is not just functional a path from A to B, it also respects local history and the community aesthetic.
So people take pride in it.
Exactly. The sources show that when people feel pride in their infrastructure, they treat it better, and it becomes a celebrated community asset, not just some necessary utility.
Okay, here's where we get into the real heavy lifting of urban renewal. These projects aren't just creating new segments, they are fundamentally reshaping old, often neglected infrastructure and stitching together whole regional transportation networks.
This highlights the strategic genius behind these projects. I mean, the question is no longer how to squeeze a bike lane onto an existing street.
No.
It's how to link segments together to create meaningful transportation options that span entire regions. And often, the answer lies in repurposing abandoned or forgotten infrastructure.
The Rail-to-River Active Transportation Corridor in LA, California is the perfect case study here. Segment A of this 5.5-mile path, it repurposed a neglected rail right-of-way, a strip of land that had just been sitting vacant and overgrown, and turned it into a vital community path.
And this project, it connects schools, transit hubs, businesses in South Central LA. It's got bioswales, hundreds of new trees. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, that shift from forgotten rail line to regional transportation artery, that represents a huge political and philosophical win.
It's prioritizing human mobility.
And neighborhood health over relic industrial infrastructure.
And the momentum is just huge, right? Especially with the 2028 Olympics on the horizon.
Oh, absolutely. Advocates are pushing hard for Segment B, which would extend the path even farther east to the LA River and create this key regional connection, linking South LA all the way down to Long Beach.
It's a slow, steady process of infrastructural surgery.
We see that same closing the gap mentality in Providence, Rhode Island, too. It's a smaller scale, but it has an equally high impact. Their Woonasquatucket River Greenway Improvement Project on Kinsley Avenue finally closed a missing, dangerous link in the city's 7-mile greenway.
And that project really exemplifies the multi-use mandate we saw in the intro. They added a grade-separated cycle track, that's the specific term for a path separated by vertical differences or a barrier, but they also added a canoe and kayak launch and mini parks.
And this directly supports the Valley area's economic transition. That neighborhood is shifting from, a heavy industrial district to a vibrant mixed-use area full of studios and restaurants.
So the infrastructure isn't just serving commuters.
No, it's actively driving economic revitalization by making the riverfront accessible and really attractive.
So zooming out to the largest possible scale, let's look at Lynn, Massachusetts. Their Northern Strand Trail extension, it's only 2 miles, but it closes a gap that connects downtown Lynn seamlessly into the massive 3,000-mile East Coast Greenway network.
And the scale of that transformation is just profound. The redesign there, it replaced a really difficult 5 to 6 lane highway stretch with protected lanes and bioretention basins. It fundamentally changes the travel dynamic for residents who want to get to Nahant Beach or Red Rock Park without getting in a car.
It provides freedom of movement.
Freedom of movement, not just congestion mitigation. That's the perfect way to put it.
So if we look beyond the cyclists, what does all this mean for the broader community? The sources clearly show a profound focus on safety and critically environmental resilience, especially in areas vulnerable to climate change.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these transportation projects are simultaneously serving as essential green infrastructure. They are solving mobility problems and climate problems in the same footprint.
It's a process we call co-benefits.
Exactly. Co-benefits.
So let's go back to Alameda's West Midway Avenue, the project with the raised bikeway. We know it addressed safety, but it also detailed the expensive use of bioswales and native landscaping. What exactly are bioswales and why are they essential infrastructure?
Bioswales are an easily understandable term, really. They are essentially engineered ditches that use plants and soil and sometimes porous material to naturally filter and slow down rainwater and storm runoff.
So, like sophisticated built-in rain gardens.
That's a great way to think of them. They prevent flooding, and they naturally filter pollutants before that water enters the bay or the river.
And this isn't just some nice aesthetic feature, it's central to
It
resilience.
absolutely is. Rochelle Wheeler from Alameda was quoted saying, "For a low-lying island already feeling the impacts of sea level rise, these bioswales aren't just nice to have, they're essential infrastructure." This is climate mitigation funded through a transportation budget.
We also see a massive, immediate win for pedestrian safety, like in Columbia, South Carolina, on South Main Street. This was the city's first sidewalk-level protected bike lane. The project took a busy 5-lane road
Which is huge.
and converted it into a much calmer 2-lane street.
A road diet.
Exactly. And that decision was strategic because that corridor, it's near the State House and the University of South Carolina, and it carries some of the highest pedestrian counts in the state.
So reducing the roadway width and providing that physical protection, it just significantly improves safety for people walking and biking, reducing their exposure to vehicles and cutting vehicle speeds.
And this is where we see cities getting really strategic about budgeting. We need to look at how Somerville, Massachusetts coordinated its Summer Street project. They had two critical priorities: reducing aggressive traffic and replacing an aging major sewer line.
So they paired the projects.
They cleverly paired the street improvements, the half-raised, curb-protected bike lanes and speed humps, with the major sewer replacement. That seems like a massive logistical headache, but the payoff was huge.
It was a masterclass in fiscal responsibility married to green infrastructure design. By doing both at once, they maximized the federal and municipal funding available for capital improvements.
Which let them add other things.
Exactly. They were able to add nearly 200 new trees and stormwater gardens, which addresses the climate resilience we just discussed without inflating costs because the street was already dug up.
That dual purpose is critical evidence for local advocates. You can tell your city council, look at Somerville. They got green infrastructure and safety improvements for the price of one sewer upgrade.
And the results were immediate. Traffic volumes dropped by over 30%, and the percentage of speeding vehicles decreased sharply from 55% to just 19%.
That's compelling data.
It's very compelling. And finally, we can't overlook the role of innovation and academic rigor, specifically on First Drive at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. They innovated with the floating bus stop concept to resolve what was described as dangerous conflicts between bikes, scooters, and buses.
Okay, for listeners who haven't seen one, a floating bus stop places the bus waiting area, the platform between the protected bike lane and the vehicle traffic lane. So the bike lane continues uninterrupted behind the bus stop.
It's a key design element in high-density corridors. But what's truly fascinating here is the origin story.
Right.
The design itself didn't just come out of a contractor bid. It originated from 2018 Georgia Tech student research, comparing different safety options for transit integration.
So it went from classroom to concrete.
It moved the concept from classroom analysis, confirmed by engineers, straight into a real-world, highly utilized project. It sets an excellent precedent for how universities can directly influence city-scale transportation policy.
Okay, so we have concrete evidence these deep dives are working, both in terms of measurable outcomes for driver behavior and overall urban ratings. These projects are building immediate momentum that policymakers just can't ignore.
Let's look at the measurable outcomes that demonstrate success. Seattle, for example, saw its city rating score jump significantly from 42 in 2019 to 66 in 2025.
That's a huge leap.
It is, over 20 points. It makes it the third highest scoring large U.S. city, right after Brooklyn and Minneapolis. That proves infrastructure investment directly translates into quantifiable success and better city rankings.
Which matters for attracting residents and businesses.
Absolutely.
And we just looked at Somerville's Summer Street, but it's worth hammering home that behavior change data one more time. You invest in design curb protection, speed humps, and you get immediate results.
Traffic volumes dropped by over 30%.
And the percentage of speeding vehicles dropped from over half to less than 1/5. Design changes behavior, period.
And we're seeing these novel connections that reflect changing residential trends, proving cities are planning for the future. Take Tempe, Arizona's Smith Road improvements, which earned an honorable mention. This corridor specifically links cul-de-sac Tempe.
the country's first car-free neighborhood.
To local commerce and transit.
Yeah, this shows a shared responsibility. Cul-de-sac actually funded a new signalized light rail crossing to improve safety and access, showcasing that the private sector is also investing in these micromobility-friendly corridors.
This is what network building looks like when policy and innovation align. And most importantly, success breeds policy. Somerville, Massachusetts, they aren't resting on their laurels after the Summer Street project. That success directly led to the passing of their ambitious Safe Streets Ordinance, which mandates creating a 30-mile network of protected bike lanes by 2030.
So one good project leads to a citywide commitment.
It demonstrates how successful individual projects provide the data and the political will needed for broader, long-term policy commitments.
So, summarizing the key takeaway.
I think it's that these projects prove what is possible when communities decide to treat streets not just as transit conduits, but as true public spaces, the original social network.
Right.
They successfully blend safety, connectivity, economic revitalization, and climate-ready design, proving that the bar for urban infrastructure has just been fundamentally raised. If you are looking for policy leverage in your own town, this data traffic volume's down 30%, rankings up 24 points. That's the evidence you take to your local council.
That is a perfect synthesis of the physical impact. But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought that builds on everything we've discussed. We focused heavily on the visible infrastructure, the raised curbs, the bike lanes, the bioswales. But consider the non-physical, the almost invisible legacy of these projects. For example, when Columbia, South Carolina upgraded South Main Street, they not only narrowed the road, but they also moved unsightly overhead utilities underground to dramatically enhance the visual character.
That's a huge undertaking.
It is. Or consider the Wilson Street project in Madison, Wisconsin, which used something called structural soil to help new street trees thrive. Structural soil is a specific blend, often gravel mixed with hydrogel, that is designed to be strong enough to support pavement and vehicle loads, but still porous enough to allow tree roots to grow and access air and water underground.
It's what keeps sidewalks from cracking when the trees get big.
Exactly. And this attention to the invisible supporting infrastructure, whether it's managing utilities or ensuring the long-term health of the urban canopy, is perhaps the real indicator of a long-term commitment to a better, healthier, more resilient urban environment.
A deeper commitment.
A deeper commitment. So we encourage you to look at your own community, notice the trees and the utilities, and see where that deep level of detail is being applied. Until next time.